Hey everyone, welcome back to Ignite Healthcare Marketing Podcast. I'm Lauren Leone, your host and Chief Growth Officer. I have with us today Evan Ilgenfritz, who's our VP of Paid Media. You've seen him before on some of our deep dives in paid media, and today we want to revisit a topic that you probably listened to on our podcast a few months ago, local service ads. And the reason we want to revisit them is we've now been testing them for a few months across a number of different clients and client verticals, and today we want to revisit it to share with you what we've learned. So Evan, let's just regroup really quickly on what LSAs are if someone's listening to this episode and didn't maybe hear our first one.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Lauren. LSAs stands for local service ads. So it's a Google offering that it kind of splits the difference between search and kind of service engagement. They've been running for a long time, mostly on home services like HVAC or plumbing. This has been going on for the better part of a decade. But healthcare vertical has been a somewhat recent addition in the past couple of years, and it's been expanding over time. So that's what's important to this group, to people in healthcare. And to talk a bit about what they are is that they are little service rankings that show up at the very top of the Google search results page. So that means everything still shows. You'll still have organic results, you'll still have paid search, traditional ads showing, but when an LSA ad shows, it shows at the very top. You can have both showing at the same time, which is a great angle. You can cover more of the results page by appearing the very top of the service ad, as well as following up with a traditional paid search ad. And again, what they are tied in fairly directly with your Google business profile. You're in by location. So traditionally, when we work with healthcare companies that have multiple locations, we tend to start with individual locations in Google business profiles that have the most reviews and the highest rating. Right? And that is really how you effectively bid on positioning, is kind of the strength of your profile as well as how many reviews and how verified you appear to be. So ultimately, it's an opportunity to drive phone calls specifically, and you only pay when someone does submit a lead or a call in this instance. So it's not pay per click. It's pay per lead.
And in healthcare, the traditional use for home services, that pay per lead, you could kind of verify because Google recorded and hosted those calls. So you could go in and say which ones were valid or not valid leads. Obviously in healthcare, Google isn't going to be recording anything because that's a violation. So what is kind of our workaround for that?
That's right. LSAs as an offering have always kind of been, you don't have nearly as much control regardless compared to paid search. That's even more the case with healthcare because they do not record calls. And so we tend to recommend, it does accommodate call tracking software. So we have a number of ones that we use, Line, Callbox, CallRail. There's a variety of providers, and that is going to be your best mechanism to kind of look at and qualify how good these calls are because Google's not recording them. So again, you're really just paying in this instance when someone opens up your profile and then calls. Google will register it as a lead when it's about 60 seconds call duration, and then it's kind of up to you in your call tracking and CRM to verify the efficacy of these leads.
And you could go back in and say to Google, this was not a valid lead, even if the call lasted 60 seconds, because you have that data from call tracking.
Actually, no, interestingly. So when you're dealing with traditional home services that are not what we would say in a sensitive vertical like plumbing, for example, right? The LSA platform lists them out. You can listen in the LSA platform to calls and say, hey, this is actually just an informational call, and then they will refund you. Because in healthcare it's sensitive and Google's not recording, that's not a mechanism we have, right? So it's very important that you have, we really do recommend that you have a call tracking software solution on the back end so you can verify it. You really won't have a mechanism to really dispute calls or manually adjust quality signals. So it's all about, testing LSAs, seeing that it works, verifying the quality of these calls, and then you can make some minor adjustments in the profile and where you target to kind of help improve that. But that's really the angle, is that you trial it, make some adjustments, and if it's going well, great. If it's not, then additional testing or maybe LSA won't work in your market.
Yeah. So that call tracking is really there more as a mechanism to validate the use of LSAs, and that's for that.
That's right. Really, to recommend this to anyone, you need some sort of mechanism to make sure it's doing what we need it to do.
Speaking of kind of seeing if it's doing what we need it to do, let's talk about, we're revisiting this topic because we have some insights. What have we learned? Let's talk first verticals. Where have we used it so far from a testing standpoint, and what do we feel about the use of it for those industries?
Good question. So a lot of where we've seen use just in happenstance is in the dental orthodontic vertical. We've also tried some physical therapy, and we're again expanding with more offerings for our clients as time goes on. So right away, I can say that the learnings are interesting. We've got some dental clients that have had great success. The efficiency is good. They're able to verify the quality of LSA calls in their call tracking software, and that it even is comparable or can be more efficient in terms of qualified leads compared to paid search. Now, we've also had other dental groups that have run it, and they run into some interesting nuances and issues that kind of didn't lead to the exact quality that they would require. In this instance, I believe it was because they were getting a lot of calls that were inquiring about Medicaid that this particular business did not support, right? So unfortunately, there are not tons of mechanisms to avoid those kinds of calls. The best you could really do is look at data related to Medicaid usage in markets, adjust your zip code targeting to kind of try to find where that might not be as big of an issue. You can also include that in your LSA card, we would call it. On the platform results page, you'll see a small little section for LSA. You click it and it opens up to reveal photos and service details and
much like a Google
reviews.
Business
Correct.
listing.
And so in that instance, I think having more information there can help. Potentially if people have Medicaid or they rely upon it and your listing shows that you don't support it, that may dissuade them or reduce the number of calls, as well as geographic targeting. But in this instance, it wasn't going as efficiently. So this is just something to watch out for in terms of deploying LSA ads.
The other major barrier, let's just talk about what we've learned in kind of bringing this to our clients and why it takes so long to get it up and running and why we don't have every client on LSAs. Sure. What is the number one reason that this just takes time?
Number one reason is setup, right? Yeah. It's always interesting because I think as non-marketers, as just citizens, we appreciate how strong these systems are in place to ensure that we're verified and that this is a valid business. However, it can be a bit challenging when you're the marketer trying to stand this up. So there's a somewhat robust process to stand up LSAs where Google effectively needs to verify your business licenses, do background checks on the people or owners of the clinics to ensure that everything looks good, that Google can stand behind their verification and sponsorship of your ads on the platform. So that ends up taking some time, right? One of the things you can run into, we have clients that have onboarding more and more different individual clinics into their family, right? And while retaining the original branding, right? So that can make things more challenging, right? Because in that instance, when overall company owns multiple different brands, that they kind of have to do more verification for each of these locations. Whereas a company that has all, say 100 dental clinic locations and they're all branded the same, they're all the same entity, you can get a more fast track version. Once you get approved, then you don't have to really do those same steps per clinic.
And the one tip I would give, if you're hearing this and saying, oh gosh, that sounds like such a burden, I don't know if I'm ready for that, is everybody else probably views it as that burden too. So if you can push through it, you have the opportunity. We don't see LSAs on that many results yet because there just simply aren't users of it. Yep. There may not be someone bidding on or participating in the dental category in your zip code. So therefore they just don't show up.
Right.
If you can push through that, get verified, you could find yourself in the top position on the results as the only person bidding in that auction.
That's right. There is, because healthcare is still rolling out and is newer as an offering for the LSA program, there's a first mover bonus, right? This is not all businesses. If you were to search now for HVAC service near me, you'll see tons of LSAs. They've been doing it for a long time. But with healthcare, it's not the case. So you can get ahead of the competition. It's a great opportunity, especially in really competitive markets you may be serving in. If you can get that on top of your traditional paid search ads, then you'll get an advantage. You could break through in the market.
Yeah, I would say those are some interesting learnings. So we've now been, with those first 6 months of just understanding the nuance of it, bringing it to clients in and recommending it in markets where we're finding that our cost pers are really high relative to the system. So major metros, highly densely populated areas, or where there's big competitive density, using it as a tool if you are a player that accepts Medicaid, for example, in a market where maybe not all of your competitors do. It could be a great way to capture that traffic that they're not able to capture. So those are a few kind of early learnings. The industries that we're moving in or kind of working through with our clients to test in right now outside of dental and PT, what are some of those other ones that we hope to have early learnings on?
Sure.
soon?
So it's expanding. It's always expanding. One thing I'll add just to caution everybody is that there are distinctions. The United States is ahead. Canada has local service ads, but they do not support healthcare at this time. So they're kind of rolling that out separately with the legal system there. But in terms of current American service offerings, we've of course talked about physical therapy, dental, orthodontic, ophthalmologists, I hope I said that correctly, as well as allergists. And then now we've been talking with our LSA reps, so they're expanding into plastic surgery and med spa type services. So this is kind of on the front edge of the new offering. So there are more and more that are coming.
I believe primary care is probably fairly underutilized too. And what we see oftentimes is a lot of even like urgent care groups that are kind of also primary care. So there's some opportunities there for across, a lot of the retail-esque healthcare verticals to start trying this out.
Definitely.
All right, so more to come on LSAs as we test into these new verticals, as we build kind of larger data sets to maybe publish a couple articles on the trends that we've seen. But thanks for listening in to this quick update on LSAs. Evan, thanks for joining and sharing your knowledge as always.
Yep, thanks for having me, Lauren.